Hey all! So today we're going to replace my fixed windows with pop-outs. So what I'm going to be doing with these windows and the rear ones is I'm going to be taking out this fixed glass. I'm going to be installing the mount for the pivot at the top for the pop-out. I'm going to be installing a new bulb rubber seal all around, and I'm going to be installing the latch in here. So let's get started. All right, part one complete. You're actually going to see me pull the seal out again, but I wanted to make sure the seal worked before I went any further. The window, all I had to do was peel back the rubber on the inside while applying pressure, and sort of once you get one corner to start shifting, it's very easy to get the rest out. And because I didn't cut the seal, this seal's so pliable. If your seal is rock hard, you got to cut it. But because I was able to not cut it, I can potentially sell this window on to somebody else who can use it. This seal, I will put a link in the description. This is off of Amazon. It's just a simple bulb seal with a grippy thing, but this is what everybody suggests you use. It's designed for exactly this. Grab onto the flange, stick out so that when the window compresses against it, you get a nice solid seal. Obviously, I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning here. The only reason I put this on right now is I wanted to make sure that it would work before I went any further, because if somebody was wrong and this wasn't going to fit worth a damn, I could still put the other window back in. But since it does look like it's going to work, I'm going to continue on forward. All right, so to hold these top brackets on, these were the factory screws that came out of one of the vans that I got. I've got brackets off of 3 vans at this point. This is a Torx head. I hate Torx heads if I can avoid them. They're good for certain purposes, but they're a pain in the butt when you don't need their very specific use. They're a very fat screw, as you can see, but you don't need anything remotely like this to install this, because there's not an amazing amount of weight. These particular brackets, in fact, were held on by just like inch-long tech screws into the van that they came off of, and they clearly had been there for a while and were working fine. This is a number 10 screw. You can get these in self-tappers or not. And this would be even better if I had a flat head that's got the V, but even this round head, you can see, fits perfectly well into the hole and will hold just fine. So I'm going to use these. I'm just going to mark and pre-drill the 4 holes. 4, yes. And then basically I'm going to put a dab of RTV in the hole and then run these home, and that should be more than sufficient to hold it and seal up the hole. I'm not going to bother to put paint in the hole because RTV will do the same job. I may also run a small bead of RTV down here just to avoid crud collecting in it. These had a gasket of sorts that was there, but it was all falling apart on the van this came off of. It's not vitally important, it just mostly keeps garbage and crud from collecting between this and the van body. So I'm just going to, if I have the RTV, I'm just going to do that. Just going to put this thinnest little skim coat just to keep crud out of there and reduce the chance of rusting. Now this, you just basically center this in the door opening. There's not a precise measurement other than you figure out where the center is and you get this as close to that as you can. It also sits basically as tight towards the back as you can get it, because that gives the window the maximum pressure when it's tipped in to grab against there. All right, so the glass is in, but as you can see, it's like this, because that's what the latch is supposed to take care of. The latch will pull it tight in there against that bulb seal, but as it is now, it's not going to fall out or anything because it's hooked up under this piece. It may not have been obvious in the time lapse, but I didn't have any blow RTV, so I used a little bit of black weather strip adhesive to seal those holes. I'll come back later, probably when I do the paint, and do that. But I can't drive anywhere because this is the only car at the moment in the driveway that I can drive. We've had some fleet changes. We'll get to that if the video hasn't come out already. This is the latch mechanism, which is being difficult. I bought these particular rear ones out of someone's garage her dad's garage where they've been sitting for a while, so they're a little stiff. But this little piece gets screwed down right there, and then that allows, when the joints are all cooperative, it allows the window to pop out, but then when you pull it in and snap it down, it pulls the window tight against that bulb seal and gives you a weather-tight seal all the way around. So I'm gonna work at this hinge a little with some lithium grease to get it to move a little bit smoother, and then I'm going to secure this down in place. Again, it's just drilled 2 holes. I probably can use the same, let's see. Yeah, I could totally use the same number 10 screws. I'm probably gonna see if I've got something a little prettier, but I may just put the number 10s in for now and go buy some prettier ones and reinstall with that. But that's literally it. 4 screws up there, 2 screws down here. So let's finish this project up. So there we go. The window is installed. This handle's a little cruddy, but whether it was obvious in the time lapse or not, with these 2 screws undone, this whole handle can just be rotated 90 degrees and popped off of the glass. So swapping these out is not hard once I find some nicer ones. It's also good for, I'm going to be tinting this glass, so being able to take the handle off and just tint without having to fiddly cut it around the handle is going to be really nice. But it works perfectly fine. There it is open. There it is closed. I'm definitely upgrading these screws. I'm thinking I'm going to put a 12, possibly even something bigger than that in here, just because the size of the opening that the screw is going through is much smaller than, or is much larger than the screw. So this handle will be able to move about a bit, whereas if I put a bigger screw in, the bracket won't be able to shift. But it works perfectly well right now. It's got a little bit of wobble as a result of that. You can see I can probably put a little more tightness in it, but not a lot. But this is functional. This is just get a nicer screw. So learn from me. Don't use a 10 mil here. Use a bigger one. But other than that, yeah, it works fine. Pulls tightly against the glass. Sits where it's supposed to. These are some very old ones, so they've got this weird shaped piece here. The later ones just have a chrome button, as you'll see on the side ones. But yeah, I just have to duplicate this for the other side, and then I've got to duplicate the same work on those 2 doors, and I will be done. I'm gonna blast through. You're gonna see all of that in time lapse because I don't have anything new to explain. Alright, last window's in for right now. I can't do this one right now because this is how much of the 25 feet of weather stripping I have left. So obviously can't do this. I specifically did them in this order for that reason, because I wanted the match set in the back. And I wanted obviously the big one here because that's going to make the most difference. But I can live without the little one for right now. I'll order some more weather stripping down the line and do that door as well. But for now, whatever. But yeah, now I have pop-outs on the side. I've got pop-outs in the rear. I am super happy with them. This is super cool. This is definitely one of those things that looks super cool and is also super functional, so best of both worlds. Once I get off the camera, I'm going to pull these back off again, give them a very thorough cleaning, and put some tint on them, and then pop them back in. I don't know how obvious it is in the camera, but these two have the very slightest bit of a green tint. This has a black tint, and this has a dark green tint. So putting the window tint on them will also help hide the fact that I've got different types of glasses, because those are from one era, these are from another. The Chevy had a tendency to change how they tinted their glasses, and some vehicles even had multiple options for them. So yeah, gonna get some tint on these, and then this whole project will be done. Alright, it's a couple weeks later on the pop-out project. I tried to tint the glass, went terribly. I'm obviously very bad at window tint. So I ended up bringing it to a local shop who tinted them. They put a 5% tint on the 3 windows. He did have to, and he warned me about it ahead of time, he did have to leave a very slight gap in areas because he says that on windows this old, gunk and stuff gets up under the metal and or a little bit of corrosion on the metal, and you end up with a rough edge there that there's no way to clean. So he can't get the tint to go up to the edge and stay nicely. I'd have to basically remove the metal trim and clean it or put a new piece of glass in. So this was a perfectly good compromise to me. There are definitely some scratches in the glass that are still visible even with the tint on, but overall it's great. You cannot see in the van anymore. The other thing is these number 10 screws that I put in. I had to take these windows back out again, obviously to get them tinted and put them back in again. And the number 10 screws are not adequate. You can see how loose it is. I can't tighten this anymore because they're stripping out. So I could just upgrade to a bigger screw, but I think what I'm going to do is put riv nuts in here. I'm not going to film it because riv nuts are riv nuts, but I'm going to put riv nuts in here and just put a bolt in to hold these down because I think that'll be a much better long-term solution. I'm not going to do that right this moment, but that's going to be how I'm going to fix that. So that's the end of the pop-out project for now. Like I said, I'm going to put those riv nuts in at some point, but I'm not in a hurry. The last of the 4 windows will eventually get done. Next time I have to put in an Amazon order, I'll just order the gasket material and pop that one in. It'll be like a 10-15 minute job. I got that one tinted at the same time, so it's ready to go in whenever I'm ready to put it in. But yeah, really happy with these. They're nice, they're functional. Use them on a trip, and it was, I can't leave the back ones open when I'm driving because it sucks in exhaust fumes, but I can leave this one open and I get a little bit more air, or when we're just like hanging out in the van, I can open the pop-outs and get a little more airflow, and that's nice. But that's it for now. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Use Invisible Glass brand glass cleaner, and it'll look like you have no glass as well.